after what we saw in week 1 against the San Francisco 49ers. 31-17, the final over the Pittsburgh Steelers. On the road, no less. As much as they downplayed it with the emotion of going against their former teammate in DK Metcalf, that was really special to see. And I think what you have to point out in this game is what I mentioned a minute ago, the way they responded and able to beat the Steelers after losing to the San Francisco 49ers in such a heartbreaking way, but also what we saw from this offense. Remember, they lost that game 17-13 last week. They put up 31 points today. Now, granted, the key to the game, one of those touchdowns didn't exactly come on offense. It was a kickoff that was fumbled by Pittsburgh. The rookie Caleb Johnson wasn't quite sure about the NFL rules. He let it bounce off his hand, go into the end zone, where a heads-up play by George Solani secured the touchdown for the Seahawks. And from there, it was about trying to just put this thing out of reach. Yeah, Pittsburgh got a field goal, but you think about it, it was a 14-14 tie, right? Seahawks had a field goal, then they get that messed up kickoff from Caleb Johnson to make it 24-14 in a matter of just a few seconds. So you're talking about such a huge swing, and that's everything. But credit to the Seahawks to have the heads up on that special teams play, but also at the same moment find a way to capitalize on opportunities against the Steelers team that won last week. That's a 10-point swing. That's huge. But even when the Steelers got a field goal to get it back within 7 at 24-17, they were able to get this thing going. Kenneth Walker, huge touchdown to put it away and secure that 31-17 win. And I want to talk about K9 for just a minute here, because the hope was last week 10 carries for 20 yards was an outlier. Well, he went over 100 yards today. Really, really impressive stuff from Kenneth Walker III. Zach Charbonnet was not quite as efficient, prolific, if you want to call it that, on the ground. So does that mean he's not going to be great next week? No. That's the beauty of this Seahawks offense, is they can count on anybody to really make that happen as they move forward. So it's a really special thing to look at it in that regard, that the Seahawks went on the road. It is not easy for teams here on the West Coast to go out east and perform at that level. Now, the Seahawks have done it a lot of times because they've really kind of adopted sort of a plan, a method, a way of making this happen, but it's not easy. And Pittsburgh's a good club. And I want to talk about the emotion of the DK Metcalf thing, because, he was adamant all week. He didn't want to talk about it. He was, kind of admonishing Pittsburgh reporters for asking about it. So you knew this meant something. And when we saw DK catch a touchdown early on, you go, boy, here we go. As much as you may wish him well, and certainly I think everybody does, but you don't want him to get the first win against the Seahawks. So for the 12s to really rally, they had some great support in Pittsburgh and get this win. That was special. So let's break down the keys in this one now that we've kind of recapped things. I think the big key here is the run game. Okay, it was almost non-existent in week 1 against San Francisco. We talked a minute ago about Kenneth Walker III, but we were seeing great blocks. Robbie Oots, the fullback, had a magnificent block early in this game that I think really helped separate the Seahawks in that big run from Kenneth Walker III. But not just that one block, but you were seeing a lot of it as time went on. Additionally, I think when you're talking about the way this defense is playing, okay, early in the season, you're looking, okay, is this a trend? Is this an outlier? Was this an anomaly? Because you just have such a small sample size. But I think when you look at this game compared to what we saw last game, I think the Seahawks defense, we can say, is for real. And are there going to be some big plays here and there? I think, sure, any defense can allow that. And the Steelers had the big screen pass that we saw to Jalen Warren that got them inside the 10-yard line. But how did the Hawks defense respond? They got the big interception from Kendrick. So I think that